there's a reason you feel stuck. It's not that you're weak or broken. It's not even that you haven't tried hard enough. It's something far more uncomfortable. You've been taught to become successful. You've been told to be strong, to be positive, to be someone. But in the process, no one told you that the parts of you you're hiding, the anger, the sadness, the fear, the guilt, they don't disappear. They grow in silence, in shadow, and sooner or later, they come back. Through anxiety, through depression, through self-sabotage, through a quiet, gnawing emptiness that no achievement can fill. Carl Jung, one of the most important psychologists in history, spent his life studying this inner war. He believed that wholeness is not found by becoming perfect. It's found by facing the very parts of yourself you've been running from. Until you make the unconscious conscious, Jung wrote, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. In this video, we're not going to give you fake motivation. We're not going to sell you some quick fix life hack. We're going to explore something far more powerful, a path to becoming whole by turning toward your darkness, by understanding your shadow, and by becoming something most people never dare to become, complete. Because the truth is, you don't need to become someone else. You need to come back to yourself. Let's begin. There's a strange feeling that lives beneath the surface of modern life. Most people can't quite describe it, but they feel it. They wake up, go to work, laugh with friends, scroll endlessly, chase goals. Yet deep down, something feels off. It's as if they're living someone else's life. Have you ever felt that? Like you're performing, smiling, showing up, doing all the right things. But a part of you is watching from the outside, silent, disconnected, numb? Carl Jung had a word for that feeling: persona. It's the mask you wear for the world. The version of you that's polite, productive, likable, the version that fits in. Now, here's the twist. The persona isn't bad. It's necessary. We all need to function in society. But when you over-identify with the mask, when you believe you are the mask, you lose touch with your real self. You start to forget who you were before the world told you who to be. And here's where it gets even more unsettling. As the ideal version of you grows stronger, the parts that don't fit into that version get pushed away. The anger, the jealousy, the sadness, the insecurity, the chaos, the rage, they don't vanish. They go underground, into what Jung called the shadow. The shadow, Jung said, is everything about ourselves that we do not know or do not want to know. It's not just the obviously bad parts. It also includes your repressed desires, your creativity, your sexual energy, your wildness, your vulnerability. Everything that doesn't fit the image you show the world gets buried. But nothing buried stays buried forever. The shadow leaks out. In your relationships, in your panic attacks, in your addictions, in your passive-aggressive behavior, in your procrastination, in the dreams you never chase and the cycles you can't seem to break. You think it's bad luck, or genetics, or fate. But Jung would say, it's your unconscious trying to get your attention, trying to wake you up. Because here's the tragedy. Most people spend their whole lives polishing the mask, while the real self slowly dies behind it. They chase productivity, perfection, and praise. But deep inside, they feel split. And that's the word Jung used over and over again, split. The psyche, he said, becomes fragmented when we reject parts of ourselves. And this fragmentation causes suffering. The more you suppress, the more you feel hollow. The more you deny, the more life starts to feel meaningless. That's why so many people, even those who look like they have it all, feel lost. They're not broken. They're just divided. And wholeness, it begins not with fixing, but with facing. Facing the parts you've denied. Listening to the parts you've rejected. And slowly, painfully, beautifully inviting them back in. Most people think healing means going back to who they used to be. But Carl Jung believed something radically different. He believed healing is about becoming someone you've never been before, someone you've always carried within you, hidden beneath layers of expectations, conditioning, and fear. Not through pretending or escaping, but through a difficult, courageous journey he called individuation. Individuation, in Jung's view, was the path to wholeness. Not perfection, not success, but integration. A process of bringing together the conscious and unconscious parts of yourself until you become a unified, authentic whole. It's not about becoming better in the eyes of the world. It's about becoming real in the deepest sense. And while this journey is not easy, Jung believed it's essential. If we avoid it, we suffer. We feel lost, fragmented, split. But if we accept it, we begin to reclaim our power. The first step, as Jung emphasized, is to face what we've spent most of our lives running from, the shadow. The shadow isn't evil. It's not a monster. It's simply everything we've repressed. The parts of us that were judged, dismissed, or punished. Our anger, our fear, our sexual desires, our selfishness, even our joy, if it was ever made to feel wrong. But here's the paradox Jung pointed out. The shadow also holds the parts of you that are most alive. Your creativity, your ambition, your strength, your sensuality. The qualities you need to become whole are often the same ones you were taught to reject. As children, many of us learned it was safer to be small, quiet, obedient. Maybe we learned that speaking our mind made us rude, that showing emotion made us weak, that wanting more made us greedy. So we buried those parts. Not because we were bad, but because we wanted to survive. We adapted. We wore the mask. And now, as adults, those hidden parts don't just vanish. They return. In outbursts, in anxiety, in shame, in sabotage. The shadow always finds a way back. Jung didn't believe we should try to get rid of the shadow. He believed we should turn toward it, understand it, listen to it. Because beneath the shame and fear is a voice that wants to be heard, a part of you that wants to come home. This process of integration isn't comfortable. It can be painful. You might uncover memories you thought you had forgotten, desires you've tried to bury, regrets that sting. But this is the raw material of wholeness. To know yourself, you must face yourself, not just the good, but the difficult, the strange, the unacceptable. And when you do, something begins to shift. You start to feel more energy, more clarity, more presence. You stop fighting yourself, and you begin to feel, maybe for the first time, real. But the unconscious doesn't just speak through emotions. Jung believed it speaks in symbols, in dreams, in images and myths. The rational mind wants clarity, logic, order. But the soul speaks in metaphor. That's why Jung paid close attention to dreams. Not because they tell the future, but because they reveal the present. Your dreams are messages, symbols of what your psyche is trying to process. That dream of falling might not mean disaster. It could mean surrender. That recurring dream of being chased might be your shadow pursuing you, asking to be seen. The stranger in your dreams might be a forgotten part of yourself. Jung believed that if we ignore our dreams, we ignore our own inner wisdom. You don't have to be an expert to listen. Just begin by paying attention. Write them down. Notice what images return, what emotions stay with you. Ask what part of your life the dream might be reflecting. Don't rush to interpret. Just sit with it. Let the image speak. Because often what your conscious mind rejects, your unconscious brings back in dreams. Jung also believed that within each of us are ancient patterns, archetypes. These are not just characters in myths or movies. They are parts of you. The hero, the rebel, the caregiver, the outcast. These patterns live in your psyche, shaping how you see the world and yourself. Maybe you feel drawn to the hero's journey, always striving to prove yourself. Maybe you're caught in the orphan's wound, feeling abandoned or misunderstood. Maybe you're stuck in the trickster, sabotaging your own plans. These archetypes aren't good or bad. They're guides, mirrors. When you recognize them, you begin to understand the story you're living. And that awareness gives you a choice, to keep repeating the pattern or to rewrite it. All of this, the shadow, the dreams, the archetypes, leads to something deeper. The ego, not the mask, but the true center of your being. Jung believed the self is the union of opposites. It's who you become when you no longer deny any part of yourself. It's not a goal you achieve. It's a presence you uncover. A quiet, steady knowing that you are more than what you've been taught to be. Becoming whole doesn't mean you stop being afraid, or sad, or angry. It means you learn to live with those feelings, to hold them, to understand where they come from, and to act not out of fear or avoidance, but out of truth. It means you can be strong and vulnerable, confident and uncertain. It means you no longer have to hide. This isn't something you do in a weekend. It's a lifetime practice. And it doesn't happen in a monastery or on a mountaintop. It happens in ordinary moments. When you pause before reacting, when you admit you were wrong, when you sit with discomfort instead of numbing it, when you ask a deeper question instead of giving a quick answer, when you choose to be honest even if your voice shakes. So how do you begin? Not with a grand plan, but with presence. Begin by noticing your reactions, your habits, your dreams, the patterns in your life that keep repeating. Ask yourself, what am I avoiding? What part of me have I not made peace with? What story am I living, and is it even mine? These questions aren't meant to be solved immediately. They're meant to open something in you, a space, a silence, a willingness to feel. If you start there, things begin to move. Not all at once, not in a straight line, but slowly you begin to feel more whole. You start making choices from a deeper place. You stop living just to please or perform. You begin to trust your own rhythm. And you realize that you don't have to become someone else to be worthy. You just have to stop abandoning yourself. This is what Jung meant by individuation. Not becoming perfect, not becoming enlightened, but becoming whole. And in a world obsessed with image, with speed, with constant improvement, wholeness is a quiet, radical act. It means turning inward when the world tells you to look outward. It means embracing contradiction when the world demands consistency. It means walking your own path even if no one claps for you. And in doing so, you begin to remember something ancient, something sacred, that you are already enough, that your mess, your madness, your magic, all of it belongs. And the journey to wholeness is simply the journey home. The journey to wholeness isn't something that happens in theory. It's something that unfolds in real life, through our choices, our struggles, our relationships, and the quiet moments no one else sees. You don't need to be a philosopher or a psychologist to walk this path. You just need to be willing to pay attention to your reactions, to your patterns, to the subtle tug of your inner world asking to be felt. Carl Jung never claimed that wholeness was about escaping the world. In fact, he believed the exact opposite. The purpose of inner work isn't to transcend reality, but to engage with it more honestly. To become so rooted in yourself that you can stand in the chaos without losing your center. This is what individuation looks like in the real world. It starts in the way you wake up, not with a checklist or a surge of motivation, but with a quiet check-in. How do I feel right now? What dreams linger? What part of me is calling for attention today? Most people never pause to ask. But when you do, you open a line of communication with your unconscious. You begin the day not by rushing, but by listening. Then come the moments of irritation. A coworker says something that cuts deep, and you feel that flash of anger or shame. In the past, you might have blamed them or pushed the feeling away. But now you pause. You ask, what was touched in me? What wound is still open? Instead of reacting, you respond. Instead of suppressing, you become curious. That single moment becomes an act of self-integration. Or maybe you're in a relationship, romantic, familial, or professional, and something just keeps repeating. The same fight, the same frustration, the same silence. Instead of seeing it as proof that something is wrong with the other person, you ask, what pattern am I recreating? What archetype is playing out here? Am I being the martyr? The child? The tyrant? When you see the story, you can begin to rewrite it. These are not dramatic transformations. They don't come with applause. But over time, they change everything. You stop projecting your wounds onto others. You stop expecting the world to save you or validate you. And you start building a life that reflects your inner truth, not your inner chaos. There will be times when it all feels pointless. When the shadow feels too heavy. When the dreams make no sense. When the world outside moves too fast for your slow, aching process. And in those moments, it's tempting to go back. To numb. To perform. To abandon the work. But remember this, healing doesn't always look like progress. Sometimes, it looks like sitting in the dark and choosing not to run. One of Jung's most powerful insights was that what you seek is not found by climbing upward, but by going inward. Not by rising above the mess, but by descending into it with eyes open. That's where you find the parts of yourself you left behind. That's where you become real. And real doesn't mean flawless. It means honest. It means you know your own patterns and you choose to meet them with love instead of shame. It means you see your shadow not as a curse, but as a doorway. It means you understand that every emotion has a message, every conflict has a lesson, and every relationship is a mirror. The modern world will tell you to keep scrolling, to keep achieving, to keep performing. But Jung's path offers something different. A slowing down, a looking within, remembering that who you are is not something you have to earn. It's something you have to uncover. That might mean saying no to things that once defined you. Walking away from relationships that only recognize your mask, not your soul. Letting go of goals that served your ego but starved yourself. It might mean choosing silence over noise. Solitude over distraction. Depth over comfort. People might not understand. That's okay. This path isn't meant to be approved by others. It's meant to be lived. Quietly. Bravely. And yes, sometimes clumsily. There will be days when you feel like you've regressed. Like you're more lost than ever. But often, those are the days when the deepest shifts are happening. When the old stories are breaking down and new ones haven't fully formed. Trust the process. You're not falling apart. You're falling inward. You might find yourself suddenly grieving something you didn't know you lost. Childhood innocence. A version of yourself that never got to be. A dream you abandoned to survive. Let yourself grieve. Let yourself feel. Because every tear, every ache, every moment of silence, it all becomes part of your becoming. And slowly, you start to notice small changes. You're less reactive, more present. You start choosing relationships that nourish you, work that aligns with you, creativity that flows from the deepest parts of you. You stop trying to prove your worth and you start living it. You might find yourself speaking more honestly, setting boundaries without guilt, laughing from a deeper place, crying without shame. You begin to show up as someone you recognize, not a role, not a projection, but a person. There's a line Jung once wrote that hits something deep in the soul. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Not who your parents wanted you to be. Not who society rewards. But who you are when nothing is performing. When nothing is pretending. That is the destination. And it is also the path. So how do you stay on it? You keep choosing truth even when it's uncomfortable. You keep choosing stillness even when the world is loud. You keep choosing yourself even when it's easier to abandon who you are. You let your dreams speak. You let your shadow teach. You let your heart guide. And when you fall out of alignment, as we all do, you don't punish yourself. You return. You begin again. Because the path to wholeness isn't a straight line. It's a spiral. You revisit the same lessons, but from deeper and deeper levels. You heal in layers. You grow in waves. And each time you come back to yourself, you come back with more compassion. There will always be voices, outside and inside, that tell you to be someone else. To be smaller, softer, louder, nicer, tougher. But none of those voices know what your soul came here to do. Only you do. So listen, even if your voice trembles, even if your hands shake, even if your path makes no sense to anyone else. Trust it. You don't need to fix yourself. You need to face yourself. You don't need to perform healing. You need to allow it. And you don't need to be perfect to be whole. You just need to stop pretending you're not already enough. Because underneath the noise, the mask, the fear, there is something untouched, something ancient, something sacred, and it is waiting for you to come home. This is not the end of your journey. It's the beginning of a new kind of presence, a new kind of power, one that doesn't need validation to exist. You were never meant to stay fragmented. You were meant to become whole. And that wholeness, once touched, doesn't make you superior. It makes you deeply, humbly human. So walk your path, with courage, with gentleness, with truth. Because the world doesn't need more perfection. It needs more people who are real. And the most real thing you can ever be is whole. So if you're still here, still listening, maybe something in you has been quietly nodding along. Maybe there's a part of you, small but steady, that knows this isn't just philosophy. This is personal. This is yours. Wholeness isn't something reserved for saints, sages, or scholars. It's not some distant mountain to climb. It's a path that begins right where you are, in the mess, in the longing, in the questions you've been afraid to ask. And if today's reflection helped you feel even a little more seen, a little more understood, or simply reminded you that you're not alone on this strange and sacred journey, then this space was worth creating. At the Noble Stag, we don't claim to have all the answers, but we do believe in asking better questions, in digging deeper, in honoring the complexity of what it means to be human. And if that resonates with you, we'd love to have you walk this path with us. If you found meaning in this video, consider subscribing, not for numbers or algorithms, but because it helps us keep making work that matters. Work that invites reflection, not just reaction. Depth, not just distraction. Thank you for your time, your presence, and your willingness to explore. We'll see you in the next story. Until then, take care of your shadow. And keep walking home to yourself.